Laura, how are you?
All right, we'll have to call this meeting to order. Of course, I'm not Chris. I'm standing in for Chris today as the first vice chair or vice chair. This being our annual meeting, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming for the meeting today, and especially our guests. I would like to just make a few notes about our agenda today. All of our trustees would have had the agenda in board effect. I do want to just make just a couple of notes about changing the agenda. So first, we do have a presentation from our architect, Jeremy Klein, and we are going to move that up in the agenda to right after we approve the minutes for this meeting, or for the last meeting, I'm sorry. And then we also, we have a presentation on here for Anne McCune. We're not going to be doing that today. We're going to table that for another meeting. So again, just moving up the architect's presentation, which will be about half an hour, and then being able to strike off the presentation for Anne McCune and the widow of our former trustee member who's passed away sadly, Barry McCune. So any additional changes to the agenda? All right, so I ask for a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, so Jim moved to approve this agenda, and then Kathy seconded it. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. All right, so moving on, we can go ahead and do our welcoming remarks here. Again, we've got a number of guests here, and I will turn to Skip to do some introductions for us.
Well, let's see. There's so many folks. Let me just mention that Rachel Myers, our manager, she's going to give us welcoming remarks in just a minute. So, Lonnie, your daughter is here. You want to introduce your daughter?
Oh, yeah. This is my daughter, Lucy. Say that. Lucy's a 7th grader at Indian Creek, and I dragged her along to learn something.
All right.
Let's see. We have, okay. John Wetzel. That's right, John. Okay. Say that.
John Wetzel.
Thank you, John Wetzel. And I've met John about 6 times, so you think I would. John Wetzel uses the Crofton Library and has been here a number of times. And Emma Eppercorn is she's with the Department of Public Works and works closely with Jeremy and is very anxious to see the design as I am as well. Oh yeah, we have our two potential new trustees right here. Barbie Calder is the trustee nominee who you will vote on in just a little while. And Abby Chan is our new student trustee who you will vote on shortly. And what about over here? We've got Judy Poyer. You all have met Judy a number of times. She's the collection development manager. Gloria Harber's Southern Regional Manager. Ashley Rogers, Glen Burnie Library Manager. Wanda Wagner is our Northern Regional Manager. Yeah, a lot of great guests here today. Jeremy Klein is our architect for Glen Burnie. He also ran the site study for Annapolis, which was a lot of fun, and the design of the Annapolis Library. And Rachel.
Jeremy is also our architect for our work.
Oh, that's right.
As well. So welcome everybody to Discoveries. Thank you in advance for working with our flexible space as we are under construction. So I think the last time that you were here, we actually maybe talked a little bit about ideas for expansion. So that is underway. We are also taking over the 2 spaces next to us here in the mall, so those are in progress, as are some adjustments to this space, as you can see. So we look forward to this project hopefully being done in July and having some additional space both for adult work on this side of the public floor, moving some of the children's stuff into this room, and then a larger programming space to take care of our large programs that that we have. So we welcome everybody here today. I'm happy to give you a peek into the space. Some of you have already seen that. If you want to really visualize actually what we're adding, it's much easier to conceptualize once you can see the space. And we're just really excited. And so thank you for being here today. And again, I appreciate your forgiveness of our space in progress in here.
Any questions or comments for Rachel? Wonderful, thank you so much. All right, we'll move right into the approval of minutes from the March meeting. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
What?
Okay.
My name is misspelled.
Oh my goodness.
I think it's on page 2 or 3.
Page 2 or 3,
It's not a
okay.
huge deal, but
We need to make sure that gets corrected for the record. Any other corrections to be noted? All right,
My name is also misspelled.
I'm sorry?
My name is also misspelled.
Goodness, okay, we'll get both of those names.
Well, now I'm gonna check.
Right. And we'll do just another, just making sure that everybody's name is spelled correctly. Any other?
Who's the second?
Margot.
Margot.
Yeah.
I think it's just the first page that it happened. So.
So any other corrections to be noted? If there are no other objections, do I need to?
You need to call for a motion.
All right, I'm calling for a motion to approve the minutes.
The amended minutes.
The amended minutes, absolutely.
so moved.
All right, Lonnie, and second,
Second.
and Laura seconded.
Sandy, second.
Oh, all right, Sandy. Good to see you there, Sandy, good to see you. All right, so if there are no other objections, the minutes are approved.
Vote.
Oh, and the vote,
All
I'm
in
sorry.
favor.
I know you all giving me grace, so I appreciate it. All in favor? For a vote? All right. No objections? Oh,
You're good.
all right, so minutes are approved. All right, now we can move into our presentation from our architect.
So trustees, I've been looking forward to this day for a few months. Want to give you an update on where we are with Glen Burnie Library. I want to introduce to you Jeremy Klein, who is the current architect for the project as we are right now. Jeremy's firm and I in the library go back a long way. Severn, here at this place, the initial site surveys for Annapolis. Most importantly though, the most significant achievement I think is you can just drive down West Street. See that magnificent building there? That's Jeremy's firm's work. So we are so thankful that team is back together with us working on the Glen Burnie Library as well. And again, I want to introduce to you Emma Peppercorn, our project manager at DPW. She's the one managing our time and our money and our budget for this work. So we really appreciate their help as well. So without further ado, Mr. Jeremy Klein.
All right. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here today to share. As Rudy said, we have had a great relationship with Anne Arundel County Public Library. Some faces I recognize from our work on Annapolis, and many new faces, which is great. Rudy said it really was a team that put together Annapolis, and we've been really fortunate to be able to bring that same team to work on Glen Burnie. So we're thrilled to be working on this with you. I thought the best way to kind of catch you up as to where we are at this point in time, which is very much a point in time, is to kind of take you on the journey that we've been on. And I'm going to try to do that in under half an hour, so we'll see how I do. Rudy mentioned our first touch with the Glen Burnie project as WGM was in 2019. We have an open-end contract with the Department of Public Works for Anne Arundel County. This was an assignment that we got under that contract, and it was specifically a site study here at the existing Glen Burnie site. Obviously, the project has been on your radar for much longer than that, but this was kind of our first touch point with the project. There we go. Okay. So the site study looked at the existing site of the Glen Burnie Library. This is where the current building sits. It's about 20,000 square feet. We looked at the study at the time charged us with also looking at options which would include land acquisition to the north and the east. North is left on this page. Most of the exhibits you're going to see in this presentation have that orientation. We looked at things at that time such as zoning, existing easements on the site, environmental considerations, topography. We looked at parking. At the time that this study was initially went out, it was for a 32,000 square foot library. So most of the schemes that you're going to see, I'm only going to show you two very quickly, had 120 parking spots. That would be the required parking for that 32,000 square foot library. So there were a number of schemes generated at that time, I believe 6. 2 went forward as kind of the preferred option. 1 which maintained the existing lot lines with no land acquisition. Another which included land acquisition to the north. That scheme let the site flex a little bit. You'll notice in both of these schemes, this is germane for the project that we're working on now. The library's preference for anything under 40,000 square feet is for a 1-story building for operational efficiencies. So in both of these schemes at the time, we were at 32,000 square feet. You can see at 32,000 square feet with 120 parking spots, we generally filled the site. We're able to have a little more flex, a little more green space with 120 parking spots and 32,000 square feet, again on one level here. The study was completed and a subsequent study was done. This was not done by us, it was done by AECOM in 2021. This was for the county's Cultural Resources and Archaeology Department. They are housed in a number of different locations around the county, and they were looking to consolidate their operations into one place. The study was not so much site-specific at that time that AECOM did. It was more a programming study and understanding their space requirements. That was done in 2021. We were subsequently asked in 2022, the county merged these two capital projects, the Cultural Resources Project, the Library Project, and said, hey, there's some synergies here. These would be good potential cohabitants in a new facility that we're going to build. So we were asked to update the study, the stipulation this time being there is going to be no potential land acquisition to the north or to the east. We're going to add 8,000 square feet of cultural resources to the project. We're going to update the parking count, which now goes from 120 to 150 based on that additional 8,000 square feet. And you can see, you remember from the older site study, it was pretty packed to begin with. At this point, we knew that the footprint couldn't even be 32,000 square feet because we were adding additional parking. So we had to look at a multi-story scheme at this point. We had an early programmatic breakdown that we just did to kind of test fit the size of the floor plates. This scheme showed a lower level that was smaller than the upper level, so the upper level would kind of cantilever or overhang over the site. Total building of 40,000 square feet. In late 2023, the county advertised a public advertisement, open solicitation for an architectural team to design new Glen Burnie Library. We put together the same team that had performed the design for Annapolis, ourselves, Wheeler Goodman Massick, Bay Engineering, who has subsequently been bought by Atwell. You'll see Atwell on this. They're a local civil engineering firm. Lewis Cherry Architecture out of North Carolina does fabulous library design, and Margaret Sullivan Studios out of New York City, who is sort of the preeminent library programmer and interior designer in the country. She does this all over the country. We were happy to be able to bring that same team back together. After, I guess, a selection process, we were awarded the job in late 2024 and got to work on it. So the rest of the presentation is what you're going to see that has happened basically here in 2025. Pace of the project has picked up significantly now that we're fully under design. One of the things that was very important and that was part of the solicitation was a programming effort and soliciting input from the Glen Burnie community. Glen Burnie community loves their library, and they have a lot of very strong ideas about what they want in their building. They love their library, they love their library staff, and really it's just our job to try to create a wrapper to incorporate all the wonderful things they do in that building. So what you're seeing here, this is a findings report from 2025. All this heavy lifting is primarily done by Margaret Sullivan's team. The report was published in 2025. You can go see that. I believe it's on the sort of Glen Burnie Update website, so you can see the full report. I'm pulling out some highlights from this. Again, this was a super energized community who got involved in this programming process. 1,000+ participants. We did a programming workshop where Margaret had a series of, some of you were there, I remember seeing some of you there, where there were a series of sort of exercises that people could work on to solicit input in all sorts of different ways. We followed that immediately with, the precursor to that on the same day was a similar exercise with staff, the whole Glen Burnie staff. So it was a super valuable day. The public session happened after a weather delay. It happened right at the end of February. And that was also the same day as the staff workshop. There were additional outreaches that were done to different community groups or sort of different members who are customers of the Glen Burnie Library, different groups. And there was an online survey that was put out that had over 900 responses to the survey. There were a lot of great things that were gleaned from that. And again, this report kind of tries to synthesize a lot of that information. These are some of the things we heard about what Glen Burnie loves about their community. We had all kinds of different boards and heard things about what they want to see in the new Glen Burnie Library. So some of this is things they love about the old library. Some of this is things that do not exist in the old library that they would love to see in a new library. There's some information about the demographics of the respondees to the surveys, both in terms of sort of the type of library user who's responding, whether it's a reader, a family, or an individual caregiver looking for a place to bring their charges. All sorts of different insights about the spaces, types of spaces and places that this community would like to see in the library. Interesting to note in here, outdoor reading garden is up there. 51% of the respondent survey said that's a space they would like to see. 53% still want a quiet room in the library, and some high 40s around study rooms, reading rooms, Storyville, child play spaces, etc. We talked about the idea of a destination space, a destination feature, something that's different about the Glen Burnie Library, potentially than other libraries. We found this really, really interesting, and you'll see this as a repeated theme as we continue going through the programming materials. Really high marks in there for food pantry and tool library. So these are really community service type of interventions, and it became very clear that for this community, these are the type of spaces that they want to see in this building. How do you want the library to look and feel? What feelings or experience do you want the library to evoke? Again, you can see all that kind of feedback. There were questions about what type of programs do you consider most impactful, and so a lot of this is programs that Glen Burnie is either currently running or programs that they could run in a new space. The 5 bars up top are the kind of space, or the 5 shapes are the space that you would potentially be running those particular programs in. And then we also had some very specific questions and some feedback. Cultural Resources was on site for that community workshop. They set up a table, which was great, with some of their artifacts. They were able to share out their artifacts. And we talked about the fact that they are going to be a co-tenant in this building with the library, and what a great set of synergies there is. Honestly, that discussion for me was one of the ones where the things that I was not even thinking about how those two entities can work together and sort of expand each other's mission, we think is going to be really, really fabulous. So that was part of the discussion as well. In the staff workshop, we had the staff sort of design their own library using a series of Tetris-like shapes. What we were trying to pull out of this are the adjacencies that are important to the staff, the types of spaces that they consider the most important. You had a whole menu of spaces to choose from, so not everything went on the board, but we saw what was important in terms of the adjacencies. Qualitative analysis, getting feedback from the staff who are so, this is their home when they're not at home, and that type of qualitative feedback is super important for the design. Some of the reoccurring space adjacencies that came out of that staff feedback are things that we then took into the next stage as we're starting to actually design the building. Margaret does a series of sort of big picture ways of orienting space, and these are some diagrams about that, which are then overlaid with some of the actual spaces in the library. We also had a number of pictures that people could put pins in or choose what were the images that were most evocative to them for what they want their library to be. And again, some of the key findings. It's a great report overall if you get a chance to get into it. That qualitative input makes its way into quantitative input in the form of an enumerated program. So this is the program for the building. This is sort of the recipe or the menu of spaces and places that will make up the Glen Burnie Library. This is the most current version of it as it goes through those different iterations. So that number down in the bottom right, you see right around 32,000 square feet for the program for the library. This program does not include the Cultural Resources program. This is the library program. So that series of surveys and everything, that was happening over the months of January and February, culminating in a workshop at the end of February, the findings report published in March. At the same time, we're working with the civil engineer and the landscape architect on some site layout ideas for Glen Burnie Library. One of the things that was important to test early on was to see, was there really any way to get this program back to a one-story building for 40,000 square feet? And the quick and early takeaway for that was to do that, to have 40,000 square feet and still get a minimum of 150 parking spaces, you have to look at structured parking under the building. That's the only way to do that. There were a couple different scenarios we looked at in terms of splitting or partial lower levels. Those were some of the early site investigations. Ultimately, those were jettisoned for budget concerns with the structured parking, as well as just the idea of walking into parking as your lower level rather than having an energized library space. So the next series of site schemes that we looked at here, you're going to see we're starting to settle in on a footprint of around 26,000 square feet. That 26,000 square feet is what lets us get that 150 parking spots on site. So we're looking at putting the building on different parts of the site. Right now you can see it's a rectangle. It's basically a placeholder as we're moving through February, trying to figure out what makes the most sense in terms of delivery, service, public approach, welcoming space, staff access, how cultural resources works with the library, where those service interactions happen. So a bunch of different investigations looking at that. It came away, it did seem that the building generally wanted to remain on the same side of the site that it is currently, which is actually the north end of the site, with the vast majority of the parking kind of collected in one area on one part of the site, facing a main public entrance. Also starting to get into some preliminary layout ideas for the building, and how taking that adjacency input and how different spaces might be oriented together. Again, these early ideas are oriented the same way, so think about the site plan. This would be that rectangular building. Looking at where archaeology goes, where the different library spaces go. Very early on, and as a result of the programming process, we quickly realized that kind of inverted scheme that was in the site study, which had the smaller piece of program on the first level and the larger piece on the second level overhanging, was not going to be a successful result. We needed to try to maximize the first floor program so that you're walking into a vibrant, energetic space, and that all of that action was happening on the first level. That was something that became readily apparent was really important. So some early ideas, just looking sort of at the building or the adjacencies of these spaces. These are really diagrams. Then starting to look at how the building shape might respond a little bit to what's going on the site and how they would push back and forth on each other. You'll notice in both of these diagrams still service and delivery is up kind of at the top of these. Archaeology is now up on the second floor. And then sort of the main, the entry is in the center, and then some of the other library programs is down at the bottom. In these diagrams that you can see, this sort of lightened or transparent area, this would be open to below. So the second floor plate now is smaller than the first floor. This is the 26 and 14 general split. Continuing to push the site plan, this was, whenever you're designing, there are these kind of moments where you try something and then it clicks at the same time. We've been moving this building around, we've been looking at different program, and kind of the inside and the outside of the building. This was a big point when these came together. And it was a subtle move, but we pushed the building farther to the east, which put a bank of parking right here, and essentially at the same time flipped on the interior of the building where the service and distribution was happening, which also flipped where archaeology was happening. And that kind of unlocked a lot of things. So we no longer had to try to force, if you think of some of the earlier site plans, we no longer had to try to force kind of a drive aisle back here. The northeast corner of the site, which right now contains the bulk of the specimen trees on the site, it's a sort of open area of the site, became something that we wanted to try to incorporate and draw into the building. There's not a ton of opportunity on this site based on the size to try to have that inside-out interaction, and that became a place where that could happen. On the inside of the building, this is what I was describing. So that building kind of flopped from what you saw in the earlier schemes. Archaeology is now on the second floor on the Eastway facade. The adult collections up here. In this early scheme, the staff bar was kind of running all along the north side of the building. Children's area was down on the west side, closest to Eastway, with a programming room. But moving that archaeology and service and distribution, that was kind of a big move that has stayed through this piece. The next move, and this was, again, this is going back and forth with staff and with Wanda and Ashley and their team and getting feedback. If you remember those adjacency diagrams, there was a discussion about really trying to get the children's area close to an outdoor amenity. So that flipped children's area from down here to up here with the children's programming room, adult collection, teen. Did teens make it here yet? They eventually made it here, if I give it away. And here's starting to look at an isometric of kind of how those two floor plates work together. So you've got, again, there's no exterior skin on this building yet, so you're not looking at the outside of the building. But you've got second floor plate here. You've got the first floor plate with a lot of those large areas open to below, some kind of monumental stair and elevator that are connecting those two levels. Children's area kind of tucked underneath that second floor here, staff areas along that side. Here's the first floor with the second floor pulled off. Service, distribution, mechanical, everything over in this corner. And then here's the second floor placed on top of that. The site plan, this is a constant back and forth. It's an iterative process that as you're testing these designs against each other, the site plan then takes that updated building footprint, what was shown at the time, starts to morph to that, continues to develop and start to get different layers of regulatory things that are required in terms of stormwater management, et cetera. Most recently, what we've been looking at, that most of these major programmatic pieces in terms of their general place within the building seem to be pretty set. They feel pretty good. It feels like we have buy-in from the staff and from the library team. Everything seems to be working. This is a series of investigations looking really at kind of three specific elements: the entry, the welcome desk, the stairway, the location of those, how those interact with each other, how those impact sight lines around the building. Sight lines is really important for the staff to be able to monitor as much of the building as possible from a single point. So these are some stair investigations and studies that have been the latest round of discussions that we've been having as a team. Again, you know, some slight tweaks to that isometric that you saw before. One tweak that happened here, again with staff feedback in the earlier version. This is children's programming room, which is a large meeting room that is primarily dedicated to children's programs. It was on the other side. The children's area was kind of butted up to the exterior wall. It was on the other side. These two elements were flip-flopped. That children's area got moved close, so now that will open to that outdoor area, and you can have some indoor-outdoor type experiences. And here's the first floor with the second floor removed. Second floor on. And you can see these spaces starting to crystallize more and more. We check back against that enumerated program document that you saw. Check the updates. This is the most current site plan based on the current building shape and form, continuing to kind of push layers of detail into this. There is a grade. The Glen Burnie Library site has a pretty significant grade differential that needs to be made up. The kind of driving grade is the grade out at Eastway. which is essentially the first floor elevation. So by the time you get to the back of the site, there's a pretty significant grade differential. So the latest piece that we've been developing as the landscape architect looks at it is this programming area opening to kind of an amphitheater type series of steps that would lead down to that outdoor area. You also need for accessibility ramping that would head down on that east side of the building to bring you down to that lower grade. And here are the floor plans as they currently exist. So again, north being at the top of the page, you have on the northwest corner, you have delivery and distribution, the primary service functions like mechanical room, electrical room. Immediately off of that, the primary staff area. Moving to the east, children's space, the program room, opening to that outdoor area, the children's collection. Then the computer area kind of breaks up children's and adult collection. This entrance atrium, there'll be a lot of different type of holds, popular materials, etc., things like that. Welcome desk, the second floor access there. Teen space, cafe adjacent to the entry, smaller collaboration rooms, quiet room, public restrooms. On the second level, archaeology kind of filling this bar. This room, as we work through with archaeology, their program and what they want to see, this space that you see right here, which is accessed off of this balcony, is really going to become like a point of overlap between the two programs. That will house the Joan Cass Beck collection. So it'll kind of be in the library, but kind of in cultural resources. That will also be their sort of entry point into their suite. So that's the kind of order between those two spaces. Some other staff support areas on the second floor. A large program meeting room on the second floor. So the two large program meeting rooms are stacked over each other. And then again, some smaller collaboration spaces. This balcony overlooking that spaceway. So that is literally up to the minute as to where we are in the design. We are currently now working on, we have enough confidence in the plan and where we are in the plan. The plan will continue to change. There will be tweaks, but we have enough confidence that we're moving into pushing the building massing, building materiality, the envelope, the skin of the building, things like that. And that is all what will push us through to the completion of schematic design here, which is scheduled for the end of the year.
Thank you.
And that's the update.
Any questions for Jeremy?
Go ahead, Laura.
Okay.
Well, having the children's area and the adult area right next to each other, is there no way that you can get more separation between where the adults are and the children are?
Yeah, so definitely one of the many discussions we've had about adjacencies. So if you remember, one of the early plans we had, the children's area was actually down this end, kind of in the bottom of the bar. The adult collection was up the other end. So there's kind of layers of a transition here. So one of the things that is going to make those spaces feel more separated, the sort of active children's area is underneath that second floor. So the children's collection is kind of a buffer that leads out into that space. Then the computer area, and then the adult collection kind of farther on the other side. So there are always, whenever you decide where you are putting elements, right? It's there are pros to some locations and cons to some location, and ultimately this was the arrangement in adjacency spaces that the team likes the best.
I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of activity out there, there's a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And that gives you a sense of what it's like to have the children next to the adult area.
Sure, yeah.
I don't think that you're gonna have enough buffer zone. I think that the overhang is gonna shoot the sound right out into the, but that's just me.
Sure, no, and it's, it is a valid comment, for sure. And something that, yeah, we're gonna have to try to mitigate in terms of what the elements in the space are and things like that.
I personally love children generally, and I don't know if
It's
you're.
not that I don't love children. I was a school librarian, you know I love children. But I'm looking at this, and I know adults who get really upset.
Yeah.
You know, not I, but I know adults who do.
No.
And when we did the Annapolis branch, that was one of the issues, that people really wanted separation between the children and the adults. And they managed that very, very nicely.
Yeah, we had obviously it was a longer linear bar, and we kind of talked about an acoustic progression, yeah, absolutely.
So originally, the library part was gonna be 32,000 square feet.
And still is.
No, the cultural part of it is gonna take some of the library space.
No, it's 40,000 square feet. The building is 40,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's 32 plus 8, which is what drove, the two-story. Yeah.
And how much is on the second floor? How many thousand?
Of the program?
What's the
Yeah,
square
so the
footage?
footprint is about 26,000 on the first floor, about 14,000 on the second floor. Of that, that 8,000, the cultural resources program is pretty much wholly contained on the second level. So the bulk of the library program is on the floor.
I don't know about, I'm not a mathematician, but doesn't that sound like if it's gone to 26,000 on the first floor and 14,000 on the second floor, that the library space is smaller?
No,
No,
Generally, I am a mathematician a little bit. The 26,000 on the first,
So all.
total on the second is 14,000.
Right?
Subtract out the 8
So
that
this
is
this is
cultural
all-
resources, so you've got 8,000, 6,000.
6,000.
6,000 library on the second,
Okay.
plus 26,000 on the first gives you your
So
32,000.
what will that be?
So this is.
That's what he showed us, yeah.
So there's a program meeting room on the second floor.
Okay.
There's some of the staff support areas on the second floor, some smaller collaboration rooms, a sort of medium-size meeting room on the second floor. As we talked about this programmatic split, it was essentially unstaffed spaces on the second floor, or call it intentionally staffed spaces. When there's a program running, that's when there would be staff up there. So the bulk of sort of active use is in that 26,000 on the first one.
Okay, great.
Yep.
My questions were, I have a couple of questions. The collaboration rooms and the meeting rooms, I'm assuming those are rooms that the public can sign up for and use.
Yep.
And they'll have the technology. My second concern is, I'm assuming if from the second floor and the first floor, there is accessibility for people who are disabled.
Yep, so
Is there an elevator?
there is. So this elevator, and in a lot of these, this kind of rendered as this glass, tube right now, and we're figuring out where that goes, right? One of this series of investigations is really looking at where do those vertical connection points go, so that when someone enters the library, they are both oriented horizontally, but as well as vertically.
And there are restrooms on both floors?
So the primary public restrooms would be on the lower level.
So so there's no second floor bathrooms for people with disabilities?
So there are second floor restrooms. Operationally, that's something that we have to have continued discussions with the staff about how much access will be given to those, because monitoring the entrance to the restrooms is something that's important.
Well, I'm concerned about seniors, meaning people over 55.
Sure.
And I'm also concerned about teens, because I work with teens.
Yep.
And I work with Teen Connect, and I know some library branches are working very hard to create safe places for teens. And if this particular library wants to do that and have programs for teens after the library closes, can they accommodate that safely in this open space?
Yeah,
Or, and do you get, because I'm part of Teen Connect, and I just want to make sure that, because the number one group does not serve our teens,
sure, yeah.
and then our seniors, meaning, I'm in a high school, so when I say seniors, I think 12th graders, but I mean people 55, my mother's 83.
Sure.
And she has serious mobility problems, so one of the places she goes is the senior center, she goes to the library. I want to make sure people who have disabilities have easy access
Yeah.
to our public spaces. That includes parking
Yep.
and getting in and out of the building, getting in and out of bathrooms, because it's a great challenge for people, especially if they have health issues and mobility challenges.
Yeah, 100%. And so from a teen standpoint, all of these schemes, have very intentional teen programmed space, right? Which in a lot of the older branches, not the current ones you're designing, but the older branches, the teen space ends up having to be grabbed from somewhere else. But now it's programmed and it's designed into the building. When you talk about after-hours use, the library staff can address that more directly, but I believe they do programs like that now in the current library. The way this building is set up, it is not set up such that there would be areas of the building that you would lock down and only have access to this area in and off hours. That's not how it's set up. I don't think that precludes them from using it for kind of teen lock-ins or things like that. And certainly there would be, dedicated area for that, but it's not like this area is going to be physically separated or secured from the remainder.
And I just have one last question. Did you say they were going to have a tool library like the one in Elkridge in Howard County? Did you say that, or did I misunderstand you?
No, I did say one of the things that came up as a very strong ask was a tool library. I'm not 100% familiar with the Elkridge one, but this would be a type of place. So a food pantry, we knew was a long-standing request. But what came out in this programming session was, tool library where people could check out different types of tools and also obtain training in how to use those types of tools. So that's a space that is.
Do we have that in Anne Arundel County at all?
I don't know the answer to that.
No.
We don't.
Because Elkridge has a very nice program in Howard County. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Maribel. I just wanted to comment also that the noise that we're hearing right now is not typical for this structure. We actually have a missing panel of glass here, so I just want you to appreciate that. Unfortunately, rather unfortunate, it was part of our current construction project, and the sound would not be this drastic if we had the children's area and the adult area. One of the discussion points that we made was, as Jeremy alluded to, when we had the children's area down in the front of the building, we lost the opportunity to use what we're calling the grove, or the back area with the outdoor experience, and moving the children's area there allows us to allow more patrons to have use of that outdoor area. Otherwise, it would have been maybe like a staff area, and that wasn't going to be beneficial. So that was one of the pros and cons of moving the children to that location.
I mean, you can, I tried to fit this in a half hour, but you can see the sort of investigations that have happened about what different places go where, and there are lists of benefits to all sorts of different schemes. It's ultimately what is working best for the team and what they think is going to be the most successful layout for them.
Oh, yeah, I just had a quick question around, because you're focused on the building, obviously, but you showed a lot of the rendering of the outside and the green space. So do you work with the landscape architect, or so that you'll be able to kind of conceptually see what that'll look like? And do y'all still make the little building model? Because sometimes I have a hard time. So that way, when you present it, I'm like, okay, now
Yeah,
I can
see
like
that.
see
Yeah,
that.
and we do still make those sometimes.
We have one in my old library
Yeah.
that like when they built it, we actually have it in a little case that, you know,
Yeah.
so it's kind of cool.
Nice. Yeah, so a lot of the ones that are in the cases usually end up being done after the design is all the way done. Or
Okay,
different kinds of
right.
models, right? Because
Understood.
that's like a finished model, and we do those too. But sometimes especially when we're kind of at the stage where I just said we're in right now, which is playing around with different building massings and stuff like that, which is, the shapes and forms of how the building's gonna look. A lot of tools that we can do that great digitally with now, but sometimes it's great to cut out little pieces of cardboard and just put it together. Those don't usually end up in cases, but they're still important. Yeah. But you said that the outdoor, so all of these exhibits, all of these renderings are by Annapolis Landscape Architects down the bottom. They also, same landscape architect that was on the Annapolis team with us. Again, the civil engineer is the same too, it's just that firm got bought. It's a Annapolis firm that got bought by Apple.
Yeah, I believe Ashley y'all had some story walks or some things you did outside before programming wise, so.
Is the parking lot water permeable, or are they gonna use something that the?
So we've been talking about different surface types in the parking lot, what that's gonna be. I think there are going to be multiple surface treatments in there, probably maybe something different for the drive aisles as opposed to the parking stalls. We have talked about permeable pavement maybe for the parking stalls, but there are a lot of things that are gonna come into play from that standpoint. So another layer that gets added in right now is we bring in the engineering teams to give some preliminary narrative input, the structural team, the MEP team. So depending on what type of mechanical system we use here. If geothermal is something that's considered here, for example, certainly explore it, yeah. So if geothermal gets used, then again, the site area is a challenge here, right? So you need somewhere to put those geothermal wells, and the geothermal wells have to be a certain distance away from any infiltrating device. So if you go geothermal, most likely most of the ground plane section will have to be non-permeable because you can't have those so close. If you don't go geothermal, then you have a lot more opportunity for permeable. So it's kind of
Somebody's gonna weigh off the advantages against the advantages.
that's the whole design process. That's
Oh, boy.
Yep.
Better you than me.
I may not understand what you just said, but I did read an article, I can't remember where I read this article, and I don't know if Glen Burnie is in a flood zone, but they're building libraries where if there's a flood, the water goes underneath, and if there's a drought, it goes. Is that what you were talking about?
No, so permeable pavement, what she's saying, is precipitation essentially that's being dealt with. Stormwater management is allowed to infiltrate through the pavement into the ground and then make its way kind of down to the aquifers.
So
that
flooding.
Avoid flooding, but it's also, and Maryland has been big on this for decades, it's treating stormwater runoff. So they want you to treat, there's a quantity standpoint for stormwater runoff, but there's a quality standpoint too. And they want you, as much as possible, to treat the quality of the stormwater on your own site. So if you think about the way that development used to be, sites collected stormwater in big culverts and big pipes and piped them, and then you see these developments that have these big stormwater ponds and things like that.
Right.
Maryland, several decades ago, they don't want you to do that anymore. They want the water that falls on your site to be treated on your site before it exits your property boundary. So then it can flow, it can convey, right, down to wherever it's gonna convey. But permeable paving is one of the things that helps you treat the water on site. What we're showing right now, the site generally slopes from Eastway to the back of the site, so from west to east. So the low portion of the site, what you see here, these are rendered as bioretention features. So these would be catching that stormwater before it exits our site, allowing it to infiltrate down into the ground, treat it. The comment about permeable paving, and if we can use that site area because we're not using it for geothermal wells, then you can potentially capture some of that stormwater, you know, as it starts to make its way down the hill and let it flow through the pavement down into, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the thoughtful presentation and your thoughtful questions and discussion.
Good.
All right.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Before moving on to the consent agenda, I did just want to make a note. I'd forgotten when I first opened the meeting here. We are going to be ending our meeting in a closed session, and then we'll reopen the meeting to open meeting just to adjourn. So just wanted to just make that sort of programming note there. Let's go on to the consent agenda. So we've got 2 items there: the motion to approve the FY24 IRS 990, and the motion to approve the sole source and purchases over $100,000. Do you want to pull anything from the consent agenda for further discussion, or? That's good. All right. So.
Are we to do the public comments?
Oh, I am so sorry.
Sorry, I just see these
That
sitting there.
Let me circle back to that. Thank you for keeping me on track here. We do have an opportunity for those who are in attendance to provide a public comment up to 3 minutes. Do we have any guests who would like to make public comment today? None? Thank you so much, Kathy. I appreciate that. So again, just moving back to the consent agenda, the 2 items for that consent agenda, does anyone want to remove either item for discussion? Hearing none, then we can, sorry, motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
So moved.
All right, and
I'll second.
All right, so Jenna Land for the motion and Noah to second. All in favor? Aye. All right. Any nays? All right, then let's go on that. Then we'll go ahead and move into our reports, and I'll go ahead and start, and I'll be brief. First, I just wanted to say it's been very much the honor of my life to just serve on the board with you all, and I would say definitely it's great to be part of a board for a library that have so many trustees who are just so passionate and dedicated about the work of the library. And so I just wanted to just reference just a couple of things that just happened just since our last meeting where we had trustee participation and engagement. So Skip had let us know about an effort to be able to support the work of our staff at the Glen Burnie Library for their Trans Pride Party back in, I guess it was March, was it?
March 31st.
March 31st. And so we had a few trustees to come out and support, and which a beautiful, beautiful program inside with children, families participating in a very wonderful celebration. So thank you for those of you who were able to come out and celebrate and participate in that activity. We also had a few trustees who were able to attend the Anna Greenberg Board Leadership Symposium, where Chris Nelson, our esteemed chair, was able to be a part of the panel. And so, and I'm putting that out there to say, certainly this is an event that happens every year. Happening again at the Bush Annapolis Library branch. And so, if there is opportunities in the future for those who attend who have not been able to attend, definitely I encourage you to. It's definitely a great opportunity to learn more about board leadership, and then also great to network with others in the community. And then finally, I want to just do a couple of recognitions today, and I invite you all to join me in wishing farewell to 2 of our board members who will be transitioning off as of this meeting. Sandy Solomon. Chair of our Human Resources and Diversity Committee, And we also have, as our last meeting for Margot Argolis.
She stepped out.
Call her name again when I see her back in the room, but as our student trustee member. And so we've got presents for both of them.
All right.
So
You can open it.
Whenever I ever ask for permission.
All right, okay.
Oh, that's right.
Show us her golden library card.
Thank you. It's better than a Willy Wonka golden ticket. And Sandra, we do have a card that I think Christine has it.
Use a real, if you'd like to switch library cards, you can't keep your number.
Yeah, you have to get a new number if you start using it, but you have a lot of fun showing it to the staff when you check things out.
No, I'll keep my number.
Okay. I would like to just say, Sandra, you've been tremendous on this board. You always have unique insights and valuable insights, and it's been great working with you. I'm sad to see you going off the board, but that doesn't mean you're going to come to things like Love of the Library on September 19th.
I'm going to come to board meetings.
Oh, there you go.
Absolutely.
I truly love a library.
Awesome. You can get 3 minutes at any board meeting.
I can do it too.
Yeah.
Okay. Love that. I had the pleasure of being a part of the Human Resources and Diversity Committee when I first joined the board, so definitely had a lot of great meetings with Sandy. And so, again, sorry to sad to see you leave the board, but knowing that you'll still be very much a part of us.
Yes.
Great.
All right. So I will go ahead and turn it, and actually, if anyone else wanted to make any comments or remarks for Sandy before we move on.
This is a good time to roast Sandy. If
I tried to nag her into staying. I gave her a really hard time. She was adamant. Really sad.
Oh, yeah.
I will be 85 in December. It's time for me to step back. Well, I've lived my life, but I hate having to write notes. My youngest son lived. I'm going to this because he will call my best friend. He's like, do you know where my mother is? Yes.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, and thanks, Steve, for the rides. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, they didn't, Mom, not on the highways, ride with someone else.
Oh, okay. All right, then, so we will move on to the treasurer's report.
This is gonna be a really hard act to follow, now we're gonna do all the dry stuff. So the library has received the county executive's recommendations to the county council for the fiscal year 26 budget. Recommendations include a 3% merit and a 3% COLA for all non-represented employees. Negotiations are ongoing for employees represented by our 2 bargaining units. Also, funding was provided for IT firewall replacements, cybersecurity awareness training, upgraded security cameras at 9 branches, and recurring funds for our union attorney. Skip, Demita, and Cedric presented the fiscal year 26 budget to the Anne Arundel County Council on May 12. The discussion centered on the operating and capital budget plans and the library's accomplishment and ranking within the state of Maryland. The priorities mentioned in the presentation included the Learning and Development Assistant Branch Manager, Maintenance Mechanic, and 3 Maryland Service Corps positions. The meeting went well, and follow-up items concerning the detailed cost for the Brooklyn Library renovations were requested.
Moving on to the liaison to the foundation board.
That's me because Ishani, I think, is in the Caribbean right now.
Wow.
Lucky you, Shine. Okay, so I'm glad Kathleen is here to catch me if I fall. So thank you to the trustees who donated during Library Giving Week. I think many of us did or donated during the month of February at any rate. The foundation, by the way, offers a friendly challenge to the trustees to purchase tickets or sponsorships. We're going to try to have 100% trustee attendance for the Love of the Library this year. So I know Skip already mentioned it, but mark your calendars for September 19th. Tickets will be available in July, but now is the time to seize those sponsorship opportunities, and you can contact Bethany at the foundation office, and her info is in the foundation report that was uploaded to Board Effect. Feel free to contact her about sponsorships. So the foundation board met in March and again in May, I guess it was this past Tuesday at Deal, and happy to report that for fiscal year 25, which ran from July 24 through the current month, May of 2025, the foundation revenues have already hit 105% of revenue goals at just over $635,000, which is tremendous, yeah. And the foundation's fiscal year 25 celebration and year-end meeting will be June 17th. Trustees are invited to attend that. I'm going to try to, I'm going to use the voice that I use when I talk to my midshipmen. I'll project that. And the foundation hosted a ceremony dedicating the Quiet Room, if you can imagine a quiet room, as the Sally A. Earl Reading Room at Bush Annapolis. And on May 13th, the board updated their bylaws, creating term limits for officers and directors at large who serve on the executive committee, reaffirming that executive committee positions are one-year terms, and creating an immediate past president position as well. As far as what the foundation has recently funded, 10,000 earbuds for all branches and outreach vehicles to give away to customers, 3,000 branded drawstring totes for 1,000 books before kindergarten, that program. There's plenty more spelled out in the document uploaded to Board Effect. There was the Arab American Heritage Month presentations at Bush Annapolis, at Linthicum, at Severna Park in Severn, and 32 Chromebooks to replace those that were lost or broken. Finally, just touting some successes, Read Between the Wines attracted over 100 visitors with live music, food and wine, and Library Giving Week, which raised over $55,000 from over 400 donors. So a lot to be proud of there with the foundation board. Did I miss anything?
You did great.
Okay, thank you.
Very impressive.
Speed
Thank
reading.
you, Noah.
Yeah.
All right, Skip.
Okay, well, first, I haven't asked my executive team, does anybody have anything you want to bring up? Any critical items?
Grab the fresh off the press library happenings in the back. So that one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the library happenings, and this month we have a commentary from County Executive Pittman on the inside page, so he's loving libraries here. Another thing, I kind of took a cue from Sandy in advance, and I didn't ask permission on something. We have put out a statement. I'm going to pass it around. If you didn't pick it up, there's more copies over there. It's a statement of the Chief Executive Officer and the Board of Trustees. So I spoke on your behalf without getting your permission. And it is on the termination of Dr. Carla Hayden as Librarian of Congress. So there's 3 copies here just going around, 4 copies going this way. Many of us have known Dr. Hayden for years. Simone, I don't know how long you've known her, but a long time. And she's been tremendous. It's quite a horrific kind of thing to have her unceremoniously sacked. So this statement, I think you will take pride in seeing this statement, and that's kind of my report, except one thing. Some people have asked about the bandage on my head. I got in a fight with people trying to ban books.
Thanks for defending our freedom.
And yeah, so anyway, you should see the other guys. That's my report.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the Finance and Audit Committee, report, any other report?
Just, we reviewed and approved the motions that the full board just approved, and we also reviewed the financial statements for March 2025 in the report.
Sounds good, thank you. Human Resources and Diversity Committee?
Okay, we met via Zoom on the union updates. The union process is going well, and we hope to have a contract in place by May 1st. The next steps would include vote and approval by the bargaining units, and then a presentation to the board at the May meeting. And we're still waiting to finalize the last steps, including merit and COLA rates. Also, the potential impact of the IMLS cuts would affect the training budget, the Zoom accounts, and other Maryland systems are more heavily impacted. ALCPL only gets about $25,000 in LSTA money, which comes from IMLS each year. So we use this to pay for training. And without this money, most of our training would cease. It's possible, that the foundation could pick up some of the training expenses. And there are many unknowns about how the federal changes will impact ALCLP and Maryland libraries overall. But we don't anticipate that we will have too many changes. And we are still committed to welcoming everyone and standing by our DEI values internally and externally.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Governance Strategy and Organization Committee. It says Mr. Eastep in the agenda, but we were actually going to have Ms. Argalis give this report. Being that she's not in the room right now, I'm going to ask that either Christine or Rudy help out with the items for that committee. So both the elections of new officers as well as the bylaws changes.
Okay, the Governance Strategy and Operations Committee met on April 17th. At that meeting, we developed a slate of officers, directors, and new trustees for board year 2025-2026 as it appears in the board book for this meeting. I'm pleased to report that the committee favorably and unanimously reports this slate to the board for its consideration. Mr. Estep caucused with our fellow trustees and found willing and eager volunteers for each officer and director position. I note that we have 2 new directors to put forward. Both incumbent directors accepted nominations as officers. The subcommittee consisting of Mr. Estep, Ms. Argalis, Ms. Fellman, and myself interview prospective new student trustees on March 31st and April the 3rd. Abby Chan, who is in the room today, who currently attends Crofton High School, was selected for nomination, and her resume appears in the board book. Subcommittee consisting of Mr. Estep, Ms. Ellis, Mr. Lemke, assisted by Ms. Feldman and myself, interviewed prospective new trustees on April 7th and 8th. From a pool of over 31 candidates, 6 were selected for interviews. And Ms. Barbie Calder, who is in the room tonight, was selected for nomination. Her resume is also in the board book. Madam Chair, on behalf of the Governance Committee, I move that the board approve the slate of officers, directors, and new trustees as reported.
Sure. I can read the names, or did you want to read the names of the slate of officers?
They're in the record already as in the board book, but so for the new trustees, slate. Nominations for officers, directors, and new trustees. Chair, Mr. Mia McDonald. Vice Chair, Lonnie Summers. Secretary, Laura Ellis. And Treasurer, Tim Lemke. New directors, Jeremy York and Gerald Starr. New trustee, Ms. Barbara Calder. And the student trustee, Ms. Abby Chan.
So because it came from a committee, we don't need a second, and so. Oh.
I don't think so.
No seconds needed,
Right.
it's called for discussion.
All right, any discussion? All right, seeing none, I'd like to put this to a vote. All in favor? All right, any nays? All right, voted unanimously. All right. Thank you for your confidence in me, and thank you for everyone who stepped up into new roles as leaders. We definitely appreciate it. All right.
One more business item.
Absolutely.
During caucusing for the officer slate, a consensus was reached that the second vice chair office was no longer needed for effective board functioning. Committee considered and favorably report changes to the bylaws to discontinue the second vice chair office. Red line copy of the bylaw changes is in the board book. In essence, one paragraph was deleted to eliminate the office, and the rest of it was simple editorial remarks to reflect that there's only one vice chair office and renumbering those in paragraphs. So, Madam Chair, on behalf of the Governance Committee, I move that the board approve the changes to the bylaws as before.
Thank you. Any discussions? All right, seeing none, put it to a vote. Let's go ahead and consider the motion to approve the bylaws change. All in favor? Yep. And any nays? Okay. All right. Voted unanimously. Okay. Thank you so much.
Concludes my
All right. Thank you. Okay, so we are at a place where we're going to move into closed session. I'm going to get my cheat sheet here. I'm about to close this meeting to the public in accordance with the procedures found in the general provisions, Article 3-305B of the Maryland Code. The topic and purpose of this closed meeting is to consider the negotiations with the collective bargaining units. The specific statutory authority to close the session is found in the general provision, article section 3-305, subsection B, paragraph 9. All right, and is there a second?
Second.
All right. Okay. Lonnie? All right, so it's been moved and seconded that we go into closed session for a confidential matter. And our new board members who've been newly elected to join us.
Do we stop the recording? Or?
Yes, we.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't.